I don't think I've ever used the word crisis before in a video or advertisement when talking about real estate. However, today we are talking about a proper real estate crisis going on in America. And if you've driven through your neighborhood and noticed that there's more and more for rent signs up and fewer homes being sold, then by the end of today's show, you're going to know exactly why that is. This is the Don Harkins Real Estate Show, and I'm Don Harkins here to help consumers, realtors, lenders, and property managers navigate the often complex world of real estate. Together, we're going to uncover the deceptions and misconceptions propagated by some of the most well-known names in the industry. Talk about myths and tactics that unfairly target both consumers and real estate practitioners. On this show, we tackle real estate topics that matter, including introduction to investing, negotiation secrets, marketing for brokers and agents, market analysis and pricing strategies, property management fundamentals, and how AI is transforming the real estate world for both agents and investors and consumers. Beyond exposing industry myths, we're going to dive deep into the strategies and insights that empower you to thrive, whether you're buying your first home, managing an investment portfolio, or growing your real estate career. So my journey began after graduating from Florida State University with a Bachelor of Science degree. I served as a firefighter paramedic for 5 years, and during that time, my passion for real estate was ignited by reading Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad, Poor Dad. That led me to pursue a career in real estate, starting with selling homes, primarily investment properties and bank-owned homes during the Great Financial Crisis. Today, I own 2 real estate brokerages. One's focused on traditional sales and purchases in Central Florida and the Space Coast, and the other specializing in long-term property management for absentee owners and investors with portfolios of all sizes. I'm also a licensed mortgage originator and leader of the Don Harkins mortgage team, where we provide clarity, speed, and stress-free solutions for homebuyers and realtors alike, specializing in conventional, VA, and FHA loans. So, huge topic to jump into today. To understand where we are, we need to go back to 2008, which I was just talking about, and the great financial housing crisis. So you had millions of homes that went into foreclosure, families lost their homes, and companies like, primarily at the time, Blackstone saw opportunity, and they started buying up these distressed properties, often at steep discounts, and turning them into rental units. According to a 2023 Government Accountability Office report, institutional investors now own roughly 450 single-family rental homes, and the top 5 companies are estimated to control nearly 300,000 properties. Invitation Homes alone is estimated to manage over 80,000 homes nationwide. And it's not just them. Progress Residential, American Homes for Rent, others are competing to buy properties, often outbidding regular buyers, and the institutional rush is transforming the single-family housing market into a market of commodities rather than places to live and homes for people, simultaneously robbing the middle class in America of their number one vehicle for building wealth and fulfilling the American dream. And I don't expect you to take my word for it. I'm going to show you some very specific examples here, and I want to start with a video for you guys and a sound clip. And before I hop to that, I have to preface it in saying I'm not a conspiracy theorist by any means, quite the opposite. I don't buy into most of them. And in playing this clip, I felt like a little bit like this clip from Shane Gillis here.
You think your dad wanted to be Republican? You think he got out of high school and he was like, all right, now it's time to be a prick about everything. No, dude, it takes time.
That's exactly how this conspiracy theory has sort of grown on me. And I'm going to play the clip here, and then we'll discuss it in just a second.
Importantly, there's 3 giant corporations, BlackRock, State Street, and Vanguard, which own collectively, they own each other, so it's really one giant corporation. But they also own 89% of the S&P 500. They own everything. They've now decided to buy every single family home in America. So if they stay on the current trajectory, they will own 60% of the homes in this country, single family homes, by 2030. They literally are trying to buy everything. And the head of it, Larry Fink, the CEO of BlackRock, is on the board of the World Economic Forum. And what they've said, we want this great reset, which is you will own nothing and you will be happy. Well, they're on their way to making sure that we don't own anything. So you all probably have heard of people who are about to buy a home, and somebody comes in at the last minute with a cash offer and snatches it out of the market.
Right.
And it's usually an LLC with an ambiguous name. But if you trace that up, you'll find it's owned by BlackRock.
Wow.
So a very important distinction here where he's talking about the LLCs with the ambiguous name, because a lot of the data that I'm going to show you today talks about institutional ownership and corporate ownership in terms of number of units. So they say 10 or fewer units, 100 units, or 1,000 plus units. And what he's talking about, this is a common practice. It's just good tax and asset protection strategy. As you grow your property portfolio, you want to insulate yourself from liability. You don't want to have a negligent act or a horrible freak accident or act of God on one property that causes damages and liability cause you to be wiped out and lose your entire portfolio. So what a lot of investors will do is they will put each property into one LLC. They will put several LLCs into one LLP, and they will have asset protection by insulating each house from the other property by having their own corporate structure and corporate ownership. All of that, by the way, can insulate the individual owner, because in order to get to the individual owners and their personal finances and their retirement savings and things like that, you have to get through an LLC and then get through an LLP and get through another corporation to get back. So we'll probably dive deeper into topics like piercing the corporate veil and asset protection in other videos. But what he's talking about, the point is, it's true. That is what they do. They have small, ambiguous LLCs that they own properties under. And so it makes it hard to track the true footprint of these companies. But I will show you, we actually do have pretty good footprints. So what was going on? These companies, great financial crisis, they're picking up all these properties, and now you have several companies doing it. And what he's talking about with these companies owning 89% of the S&P, they don't own 89% of the shares, but they do own 89% of the companies, shares of 89% of companies in the S&P. So it's tremendous influence. So what's going on? What's the result of all this corporate buying? Well, let's first establish, is this corporate buying actually taking place? And to what extent and where is it taking place? So we'll hop here. You can see this is just a remarkable piece of reporting. You can see here from pstakeholder.org, where they went through some of Blackstone's investor letters, stockholder letters, and pulled out some quotes that I thought were remarkable. And this points to how Blackstone benefits from affordable housing. And we'll come back to this, but let me just give you the gist here. 2023 letter to stockholders, Blackstone asserted that a structural shortage of housing has resulted in pricing power for rental assets. 2024 letter to stockholders, Blackstone listed declining new supply in a section titled, "We see several reasons for optimism." So, housing affordability crisis in the United States. Not enough homes for sale. Prices are rising. It's hard for people to afford and get into a home. This is a reason for optimism if you are Blackstone. Fourth quarter 2023 earnings call. Blackstone President John Gray stated, "The good news is multifamily construction is now down about a third." So slowing apartment growth, a tailwind. Blackstone's third quarter 2023 earnings call celebrated higher interest rates, saying, quote, "are having the effect of meaningfully reducing the new supply pipeline, which is favorable for values longer term." So, I mean, this is just, I hope it's obvious how disconnected or how completely opposed what's good for home ownership and home affordability for the middle, lower class in America that need homes to create wealth, how much their interests are opposed to the interest of a corporation. Everything that is bad for the homeowner, everything that is bad for the first-time home buyer is good for Blackstone. So let's remember that. So we're going to talk a little bit about invitation homes, and there was some conflicting invitations. So according to a 2023 governmental accountability study, institutional investors now own roughly 450 single-family homes. And it's not just Blackstone, which manages 80,000 homes. Progress Residential, American Homes for Rent, and others are competing to buy properties, often outbidding regular buyers. And so they were talking about Blackstone and their affiliation and who owns them. And there's a lot of confusion that Blackstone is owned by BlackRock, which they're not, and that Blackstone owns Invitation Homes, which they sold and divested from. But Invitation Homes is a big major player. And what the point of this was to show that even though Invitation Homes is no longer owned by Blackstone, State Street owns 12% of their total shares, and BlackRock owns 10% of their shares. So even though Invitation Homes is no longer directly owned by one of these single entities, you can still see that there's just massive alignment between them. So just how many homes are being bought exactly? You can see here, this chart is investor purchases by market share. Okay. And we've got this small number here. So we're talking about institutions specifically. And the point of this video is to state and prove institutional investors are causing and exacerbating and going to be a big problem for homeowners and homeownership in America, right? But you'll see the argument being made, well, look, the blue is 1,000 or more properties, institutions that own 1,000 or more properties. You can say, well, gosh, that's not very many. That's not that big of a deal. iBuyers are 1%. These are corporate-owned companies like Opendoor and OfferPad and Zillow Offers before it went bankrupt. So iBuyers are essentially flippers for the most part. So they take away opportunities to build equity through, sweat equity and property improvement from first-time home buyers or lower-income buyers or even just regular Americans. And instead, the corporation buys that house and flips it and then sells it for maximum profit possible, again, leading to rising housing prices, taking away the more affordable inventory off the market. You can see here the dark gray. Darker gray is 100 to 999 properties. And you can see there's just not a lot of companies that fall into there. They quickly pop up into the 1,000 range, or they intentionally stay under 100. This is your 10 to 99 property range. And then here's all the 1 to 9 property ranges. So, you've got this scenario here where you say, well, institutional buyers that own 89% of the S&P and they all own each other. What's the big problem? They're only buying this small number of properties. And this is why that video with Robert Kennedy is important. He's pointing out here, no, these are institutional buyers in here too, right? They own 1 to 9 properties, but they are owned by these other companies as well. Okay. So these other companies like to own companies that own small segments of properties. Again, it's asset protection, right? It's better to let one property and one small company of 8 properties go bankrupt or lose that portfolio than lose or get exposure to the entire company, the entire portfolio. Companies that own or transact 100 plus homes. Here's just a chart so you can see just how fast they've grown. You had virtually no market share leading up to 2011, 2012, a big pop. And then they did increase after 2020, right? Like COVID happened and home values are rising and rents are rising. Make no mistake, they were in the market buying, but you can see where they are really excelling and profiting and acquiring is right now, the last 2 years, when regular American homeowners and home buyers are having the hardest time participating in the market. That's when they are thriving and acquiring the largest share of properties. You can see one reason why this is a problem. Here's the home ownership rate, 2000 to 2023. We have less home ownership today than we did, a lower rate of home ownership today than we did in 2000. Just the way you would want it if you're a company that is seeking to raise rents and raise affordability. This is right where you want it. You want low home ownership. Low home ownership, well, that's great. We know the population is rising. So rising population, lower home ownership rate, more tenants. Fantastic for them, right? Hopping over here, estimated share of single-family rental market held by investors with over 1,000 homes. So, we're talking a little bit about, I guess, the main point of this video might be, there's a lot of points, but the main point might be if you are a person who's renting right now, or you're a person who wants to become an investor, and you are thinking, well, I want to wait until rates come down before I buy. It just doesn't seem like a good time to buy with rates being where they are. Or I want to wait for prices to come down before I buy. The main point of this video is time is of the essence. There is a competitor with you in the marketplace that is large, that has huge strategic control, and whose interests are squarely opposite of yours. And the hourglass has started running and time is running out to be able to get in and purchase any homes, much less somewhat affordable homes in the US. So that's the main message I want to drive home in this video is you're running out of time. Don't wait for it to become more affordable. There's powerful large corporations that are going to see to it that housing does not become more affordable. It only becomes less and less and less and less affordable. That's why it's such a great asset class. That's why these companies are buying it, is they are buying it because they want to control as much of a share as possible, drive up value. But this podcast, this show, we do say we want it to be applicable to investors. We want it to be applicable to mortgage brokers or realtors. And in fact, it is. So if you are an investor and you are thinking about buying properties, good news. I'm going to save you a ton of work. The research has already been done for you. These are the best places to buy and own single-family homes. This is the estimated share of single-family rental market held by investors with over 1,000 homes as of 2022. This is where you should be buying homes. These companies had unlimited budgets to do market research and determine where over the next 15, 30, 50, 100 years, the best places to own real estate are going to be. And this is where they bought. So this is where you should be buying if you're an investor. This is where you should be looking at picking up homes. Align yourself with these corporations, companies, and institutions, which are going to influence policy, influence pricing, influence the market. Align yourself with them. Do what they're doing. Okay, get in and buy homes in the same markets they're buying homes in. And there's a really good chart here that shows exactly what type of homes they're buying. And this is from the Urban Institute. And you can see this is a report from April 2023. And in this report, it's just awesome. They show you exactly what kind of homes these investors are buying, right? So the mega investors, average year built 1999, about 1,700 square feet, median value 353,000, median bedrooms 3, median baths 2. I mean, that's the kind of property you want to be buying. You want to be buying a 3-2 1,700 square foot home that's around 350 grand. That's the best kind of property to own if you're looking for long-term gains. Here you can see institutional single-family rental share of single-family rental properties. These are the markets that have the highest share of institutional ownership. You can see here in my market in Orlando, they've got about 14.4% that we know about, by the way, that we can track, where we can track the LLCs and we can track the ownership back to an institution. they've got about 15% of all the single family rental properties. This is where you get into the characteristics of the homes that they own and when they were built and the breakdown on that. This is the rental homes by number of bedrooms. You can see here by far, mostly 3-bedroom homes, and then 4-bedroom homes. Those make up about 90% of all the properties that they're buying. A lot of other good data here: median household income by investor type. So what kind of median household income are they buying in? What kind of neighborhoods? You can look at the census and say, okay, they're buying in this median household income area. So you can identify those areas yourself. So just get this report, urban.org, get this report, look at their portfolio breakdown. And if you're building a portfolio of your own, align yourself with them if you are an investor, or if you want to look at the types of areas that are most likely to appreciate and outperform in terms of rising rents. So, speaking of rising rents, I'm going to hop back in here a little bit to some of the notes. Rising rent, according to Moody's, rent in institutional investor controlled properties have risen 30% faster than in non-institutional rentals. The Philadelphia Federal Reserve confirms that institutional investors tend to charge higher rents, often pricing out local families. So, there's some urgency here. These rents are going to rise, and they're going to rise fast. So if you're waiting, they are going to keep turning the wrench. Shrinking supply for buyers, another part of the crisis. So, right, so these same companies are buying homes in bulk, reducing the available inventory to regular buyers permanently. All right. One of the things about corporations is they are, they're immortal. These corporations will live forever. They will outlive you. They will outlive me. They will evolve, and these corporations will become smarter than any individual. They're never selling these homes. These homes, we've got some data that I probably can show you here in just a minute on invest versus divest the last few years. They sell the worst performing properties, but they're not going to sell properties. Once these companies buy these homes are gone forever. And not only is there not enough new single family homes being built right now to meet demand, but some of the single family homes being built are build to rent communities where the entire community is a rental community. So the trash schedule and the landscaping, the pool care, it's all, going to be done by one company, one person. And I don't want to get off on a tangent, but look, if there's one company, 2 companies, 3 companies, 10 companies that own all the homes, well, now they hire all the landscapers, and they hire all the pool companies, and they hire all the electricians. So now they get to decide how much a pool company gets paid and how much a landscaper gets paid. You no longer get to compete and charge your value. Like, you just have to beg and bow down to these large companies and take whatever scraps they're willing to pay you because they control all the work there is to give out. It's going to be brutal. Not only, we're not just talking about renters and homeowners here. We're talking about all the trades that work in homes. If you're a painter, if you're a builder, you're going to be building homes for these companies. You're going to be setting your rate as a GC. So, just massive tentacles reaching out into the broader economy as a result of this growing crisis and this consolidation of ownership. And then fewer homes built to own. So the HUD Winter 2023 report reveals that many new single-family homes are being built specifically as rentals, not for sale, what we just talked about. So, big issues brewing. If we hop back in, we talked about this is where you want to be buying homes. This is that 2023 HUD report, which has some interesting data. And then, we're going to talk a little bit about lobbying and lobbying influence, but the same companies that own the press, the same institutions that own the press are the institutions that own these homes. So if you own these homes, and you don't like what people are saying about you owning homes, then since you own the press or the media, then you can use that to shape what people think about you. And I thought this was just insane. You can see here this Washington Post article. The housing crisis in the United States is real. There are too few homes on the market, sending prices soaring. But Kennedy's claims, they're talking about that video we just watched, the campaign video titled, "I'll Help You Buy a Home." Kennedy's claims are financially illiterate poppycock, says the Washington Post. Quote, "He gets so many things wrong that it's hard to know where to begin. But we will start with the most apparent problem. He's mixing up two companies. BlackRock is not in the business of buying single-family homes. That would be another company, Blackstone. But Blackstone doesn't buy enough homes to have much effect on the market." So that window that I closed a while ago, let me see if I can bring it back up. BlackRock Inc. owned 10% of Invitation Homes in January 24th. Invitation Homes is owned by Wall Street investors. So BlackRock owned 10% of Invitation Homes. When we come here, BlackRock is not in the business of buying single-family homes. Well, BlackRock is in the business of buying single-family homes. Do you know why BlackRock's in the business of buying single-family homes? Because BlackRock owns 10% of Invitation Homes, which is the largest owner of single-family homes. So, you know, I'm a dumb real estate and mortgage broker and property manager, but even I can see how blatantly incorrect and false this is. BlackRock is very much in the business of buying single-family homes because they're in the business of owning single-family homes through their holdings. And by the way, make no mistake about it, BlackRock owns way more interest in buying and owning single-family homes than just through their 10% stake in Invitation. I mean, give me a break. That's just the tip of the iceberg. So what else do they say in the Washington Post? That would be another company, Blackstone, but Blackstone doesn't buy enough homes to have much effect on the market. Is that so? Well, that's interesting because all over the news this year in January of 2024, Blackstone was being reported and celebrated and was doing a victory dance because they acquired Tricon's extensive housing development platform, including Tricon's residential single-family home portfolio. So the amount of single-family homes that Tricon owned, most of the 61,964 U.S. single-family home portfolio comes from Tricon Residential, 35,448 single-family homes. So Blackstone takes Tricon. This sale closed, by the way. Blackstone takes Tricon private, but they say Blackstone doesn't buy enough homes to have much effect on the market. Well, they just bought Tricon in 35,000 single-family homes, and that's not even the entirety of their portfolio. They have a much larger portfolio than that. Blackstone remains committed to Tricon's extensive housing development platform, plans to improve quality of existing units through an additional $1 billion of capital projects. Tricon provides quality rental homes and apartments in great neighborhoods. Under Blackstone's ownership, the company plans to complete its $1 billion development pipeline of new single-family rental homes in the U.S. and $2.5 billion new apartments in Canada. So, I mean, $1 billion development pipeline of new single-family rental homes in the U.S. That's what Blackstone, on their own website, came out and said in January 19th of 2024. And you say, well, you know, maybe maybe the Washington Post was just confused. This article was written before that public announcement. So maybe this professional reporter that works for the Washington Post was just completely mistaken and in the dark. Maybe it's an accident for them to report and say that Blackstone doesn't buy enough homes to have much effect on the market. Personally, I think that couldn't be further from the truth. I think this reporter probably had access to the same sort of information and common sense that I have access to, and probably was being given a directive about what to say and how to say it in order to, maybe put this, campaign video and this report from Robert Kennedy to bed so that it didn't leak into some of the election stuff. Nonetheless, you can see BlackRock owns 10.8% of American homes for rent. So going back to this comment here, BlackRock is not in the business of buying single-family homes for sale. Well, BlackRock owns 11% of American homes for rent, as well as their share in Invitation Homes. Well, American Homes for Rent owns 60,000 single-family homes. So they own 10% of two companies that own a combined roughly 140,000 single-family homes. I think it's safe to say that BlackRock is in the business of buying single-family homes. And if you want to be technical, it's certainly a mischaracterization to not say, while they're not in the business of buying them, they're very much in the business of owning companies that buy them and of owning them. So why is this problematic? You want to buy a single family home here in America today, and you have these companies that you're competing with. And we just showed you how adamantly opposed their interests are to your interests. Well, if you own 89% of the companies in the S&P and you're that large, which they are incredibly large, then you have massive influence. And if you have massive influence and you own those portions of those companies, you determine who gets put in positions of those companies, and you determine who gets into office through donations that those companies made and lobbying efforts. And we know that the federal government is susceptible to lobbying practices that could make home ownership more challenging and more difficult. But I'm just going to I said I'm not a conspiracy theorist, and I'm still not a conspiracy theorist. I think the data is very, very clear on this. But let me pose a situation to you, a hypothetical situation that hasn't occurred. But Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac come out and they say, well, look, in order to buy a single family home today and get a mortgage, we want the income to be verified. That's an actual requirement to get a mortgage today. You can't do this no doc, no income loan stuff anymore. You have to prove that you have the ability to repay the loan. And you say, okay, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, fair enough. I'll prove that I have the ability to repay the loan. What sort of documentation would you accept? What sort of income would you accept, or would you require me to provide to you in order to qualify for buying a home? And Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac say, well, that's a fair enough question. We're going to show you through our guidelines exactly what type of income we require you to have. Well, just hypothetically, if you are a corporation or if you own huge stakes in many corporations, then you get to determine how you pay your employees. And if you get to determine how you pay your employees, and you know that certain types of payments give you less credit and make it harder to buy homes than other types of payments, might you find some advantages and reasons to start paying your tens or hundreds of thousands of employees in a way that makes it harder for them to buy homes? Now, the employee might look at their bottom line on day one when they're signing their job contract and say, hey, look, I don't care if it's, you give me this in benefits, or, you give me these, maybe you give me stock options, maybe you give me variable income instead of salary. At the end of the day, you're telling me I'm taking home $9,000 a month to put in my bank account. I don't care how you do it. That all sounds great. Until you go to buy a mortgage, theoretically, hypothetically, and you realize, oh, wait, 50% of my income isn't the type of income that Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac like to see or want me to have. So now I can't buy a home. So I'm making the same amount of money, except the way that I'm being paid, the way that I'm being compensated prevents me from buying a home. Like that's the kind of synergy. And that's a little paranoid. That's kind of a conspiracy theory. I will give you that. But that's kind of synergy that you could create with this type of influence and with this type of reach. And that's why this is going to become a problem, is because these corporations have no choice but to be profitable and to grow. That's their entire job. And if these corporations have that much reach and that much influence, eventually no stone will be left unturned. It's going to make homeownership increasingly difficult. And that's why we're going to look at this buy versus rent comparison over just a 9-year period. And again, I'm going to stress this is a crisis, and this is something that you need to do sooner rather than later. If you are thinking about buying investment property, do not wait. It will become harder. If you're trying to buy a home, do not wait. Just go buy a smaller house today. Go buy a cheaper house today. Go buy a house farther from work in a worse neighborhood. Whatever you have to do, go buy today, because the opportunity is slipping away. I think that's clear from what we looked at. This is a buy versus rent comparison over 9 years. You can see here it's a $500,000 purchase price, and it's using some tax and appreciation and rent data that's just standard for Orange County, Florida, because that's where I live and work. And so this is from a company called MBS Highway that we were like, if you're a mortgage lender or a mortgage broker and you're looking for a great tool to help home buyers, homeowners, and realtors understand the different advantages and disadvantages of different strategies when they're getting mortgages. And this is a tool you should be looking at, created by Barry Habib, definitely a genius. So one of the things it looks at here, you can see, I want to point this out first. So year one, buying versus renting. If you have principal, this is making some assumptions on interest rate, 6.75% with a 7% APR. This is making some assumptions. It's a 3% down loan. So by the way, $500,000 purchase price, 3% down, 2% closing costs. Look, this is a house. You have $25,000 in the bank, or you can scrape it together and borrow it. You got enough to buy a $500,000 house. And that's a nice house in my market. So year one buying, $444 principal, $2,700 interest, taxes, insurance, maintenance, repair, mortgage insurance, estimated expenses, $4,000 a month. So it costs you $4,000 a month. Here's the problem. You can go out and rent the same comparable house today for $3,500 a month. So this is why people aren't buying. You say, why the hell am I going to go out and buy right now when I can save $400 a month by renting? Well, it doesn't take very long for that to flip. 5 years later, you're saving $500 a month. And we didn't go through the data in detail, but these institutional investors are raising rents faster than anyone else, 6% a year on average in a lot of cases. So you've got, just by year 5, well, now you're paying $4,500 a month in rent versus $4,024 with your fixed payment over here. Year 9, still $4,057. All of a sudden, you're at $5,700 by year 9. So total cost renting, total expense, $494,000. Total outlay purchasing, $434,640. At the end of 9 years, if you bought, you have appreciation gain of $200,000. That's using a pretty conservative annual appreciation rate of 3.8%. You have amortization gain by paying your mortgage every month and paying the principal balance down of $61,000. And you've written off your mortgage insurance and your mortgage interest payments, and you've saved $12,800 in taxes, a net gain of $295,290 just in 9 years. So this is why it's so important that Americans get out and buy homes soon and keep the homes that they buy. If you're in a house right now and you own a house and you want a different house that's closer to work, closer to mom and dad, has more room for the kids, isn't so big because they're at college, whatever it is, keep the house. Keep it for your family. Rent the house out. You can access the equity through a variety of different means. Reach out. We can go over all the different ways you can access and unlock the equity in your current home to buy another home that better suits your needs today, and rent out that current house. Keep that low interest rate you've got. But as Americans, we have to stop selling the homes that we own, and we have to start buying more homes sooner, because we have a competitor in the marketplace that's very well positioned to outperform, outpurchase, whose interests are not aligned with you as a first-time home buyer or an average American or anyone in the middle class. And time's of the essence. So again, thank you for watching. Please leave a comment. Let me know what you think, if you agree, if you disagree. Please be sure to like and subscribe. We are on YouTube. We're on Apple Podcasts. You can find us on social media at Don Harkins or at Don Harkins Realty. And have a great day.